Hello, and welcome to episode 181 of Checkpoint Chat. We're back. I went swimming with the fishes, and now I'm back.
When I told people you were sleeping with the fishes, they thought I was joking. Okay, you weren't actually sleeping with the fishes, but...
I could have been. I could have taken a nap down there. It would have been great. My name is Alessandro Barbosa. I'm joined by above land Matthew Figueroa.
Yeah, a land-faring me. Because
land-faring Matthew Figueroa. You'd be the one on the beach waving at me.
So quick catch-up. You went diving. You were away last week, which is why we missed an episode. But then you came back today and you say, yeah, if you ever want to go diving, that place we went to was really nice.
Pretty good.
And I confess that I'm not keen. I have not a huge fear of the ocean, but I have a fear of diving. Not even a fear. It's more a thing of I don't understand diving. Just the thought of popping an eardrum does not sound good to me.
I mean, don't you when you fly and you get that pressure build up in your ear, what do you do in those instances?
I tell the pilot to stop going higher because we're going to have to come down slowly. Else we're gonna... I don't know. When I was a kid, flying was a pain because my ears would always get blocked. But recently, not so much. I don't know. Maybe do
you not do the whole hold your nose and blow thing?
Yeah, maybe I've mastered that because it's not a problem.
Because I mean, if you can do that on a flight, that's essentially what you're doing in the water. You just
except if I open my mouth in the water, my little air thing comes out. I swallow water, I drown. You see?
Well, okay, so like they teach you. That's like your first basic skills, how to deal with that situation.
How to breathe.
It comes out, and you just you keep blowing bubbles because you always blow bubbles, and then you put it back in your mouth, and it's got a little button that sends air through it so that it gets all the water out, and then you're good.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You even learn how to breathe from. So there's in very rare cases where the little thing in your mouth, it's called a regulator, where it breaks, and the way it's designed, if it breaks, it's meant to just like expel air like always, because that's like a two-way valve essentially.
Yeah.
So when it's expelling air like constantly, it's got like bubbles coming out, and you're taught how to even sip air from those bubbles underwater as you safely come up. That feels super weird because it seems like it shouldn't be possible, but it works.
So that's the one time video game logic actually works. When you dive in the water, you can just
sip bubbles,
and they say, "Oh, if you need air, just swim to all these bubbles coming out of the ground." And I was like, "That doesn't work like that, surely." Turns out it does.
Genuinely works. It's kind of crazy. It feels like it shouldn't, but it does. It's not the best thing because if you misjudge it and then you take what you think is going to be a breath of air and you haven't done it correctly, you just take a gulp of water.
Nice.
And if you're struggling to breathe, that's not a great time.
Yeah, so you're not selling this diving experience to me.
Listen, there's a reason you are trained.
Yeah, I think it's worth it if you obviously you train and you get to see some really cool shit.
But I saw some dope honeycomb moray eels, saw some blue spotted stingray. We saw a turtle on the surface.
On the surface, fun. So I don't need to dive to see it.
Yeah, it was literally as we were gearing up to go down, the skip on the boat was like, look, and there was a turtle just chilling, just swimming, and he popped his head, looked at us, and then went down.
And say,
fuck this, I'm out.
Donatello, what are you doing in the ocean?
Yeah, I didn't see his colored bandana, so I didn't know which turtle it was. He had no weapons on his back either, so I couldn't identify him easily.
My goodness.
He's the fifth turtle. He was expelled from the sewers and into the ocean.
Yeah, the origin story of the upcoming TMNT movie.
Yeah, exactly. Aquatic edition.
What weapon would he use, or she?
A trident, just like Aquaman.
That's cool. But then aren't they stealing from Raphael? Because Raphael uses trident without the end.
No, Raphael uses forks. Uses fancy silverware. It's not even a weapon.
Describe a trident to me. What does a trident have? 3 points and a fork?
3 points and a long staff so you can hit people
Raphael's forks, 3 points. He's using a trident, not a staff.
Do you think he uses his weapons to eat like steak? There's no point. He's always carrying his utensils.
That's true.
So, he's just ready to chow down.
I love how we call those forks, but those don't look anything like... I mean, they do resemble forks, but they're not at all forks.
I mean, they're very terrible forks because the middle, what is it? The middle finger? I don't know what you call those. It's just like longer than the others. So like you wouldn't actually be able to grab things effectively.
So if Raphael flips the bird at someone, they're like, oh, how rude. It's like, oh no, I'm just showing you where the middle finger on my fork is.
Yeah, this is how my weapon works. Do you think they sharp? Like,
yeah,
I know you can stab people with them, but are they like, so you've got the sporky things, whatever. Are they like sharp on the sides? Like if he swipes at someone, will he cut them? Or can he only poke them?
No, I'm sure if he swiped at them, you'd cut them because they sharpened at the end, right? But they're like...
It must be because like I remember in the very old, what was it, Daredevil? When Ben Affleck was Daredevil, Jennifer Garner was Elektra and she has those weapons. And there's that scene where she's training and she's just like cutting open bags of sand. I'm like, you can't do that with these. Surely not.
Is it much younger you saying these physics don't add up? What's going on here?
So technically, it's not a fork; it's a spork because it's it's a knife and a fork in one because he can use one to cut his steak and the other to hold the steak.
Don't know.
This is what I'm just asking. I need to know because this actually sounds like a useful utensil.
This sounds like a YouTube video that we'll find somewhere.
I bet someone's like forged these and they're like, this is how these work.
We created Raphael and Elektra's sporks and we've tested them on rice bags just to prove that it does. Do you think
when Splinter was like making or giving them weapons, he just ran out of money for metal? Because like Leonardo's got the sick ass sword, and Raphael's got these dumb sporks, and then the other two just have wooden weapons.
No,
wooden nunchucks, and
Splinter's
Michelangelo is the nunchucks, isn't it?
Yeah, but Splinter's like, I've got one little piece of metal left. I'll just attach these two pieces of wood to each nunchucks. Cool.
And then Donatello's just got a fucking stick.
Shit. Hang on. Let me just take the end of this broom head off.
He breaks the broom and he puts some like purple ribbon on it. He's like, this thing is sick.
Carmen Shredder. Cool.
So you've got two turtles who can literally cut a guy open and then one guy who can bonk them on the head with a stick.
Yeah, and Donatello's like, but master, why did I get the stick? It's like, Donatello, you're the brains of the operation. You don't need the brawn.
You don't need a
backup. Yeah, it's cool. You're the smart one in the pack.
But that's probably why he was forced into that role because he knew he couldn't fight to save his fucking life. Like if his life was under threat by ninjas, like what is he going to do? Just bonk them?
Origin story I need to watch now of how... Has anyone, I'm sure like there's a comic or something where they've done an origin story, but I'm thinking growing up as a kid, all the movies, all the cartoons I watched were just straight up, these dudes exist. And that's
it's probably in like the theme song. They were like turtles and then if I'm not mistaken.
You missed the whole training montage.
Yeah. I actually don't know. For some reason, my brain is telling me they were human teenagers and then they became turtles, but I might be wrong. I don't know. I might be mixing up some things. Or they were just irradiated turtles. You know how things go. It's just like animal plus radiation step 3 profit.
So that works. That's the perfect superhero origin story.
I mean, even their bad guys, Bebop and Rocksteady, are the same things. They're like bully plus animal plus radiation profit.
Just ready. And then there's at one part where Uncle Ben dies. Oh, no, that doesn't happen.
Splinter's Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben, my goodness.
Yeah, it's just Splinter's better than Uncle Ben because he can actually fight.
Wow. That's so mean.
It's true though. It's true. Have you never wondered how weird it is that the Mutant Ninja Turtles, their like biggest foe is just like this fucking alien brain that sits in the stomach of an android?
Yeah, it's...
What drugs? What, like...
Hey, you're forgetting Shredder. Shredder's like the actual... But again,
but Shredder's like his lackey as well.
It's like a dude who wears knee guards and...
He got secondhand hockey gear and then just put knives on the wrists.
So this is what they don't tell you is that Splinter gave Donatello the stick and he turned to the fifth mystery person like, oh shit, there's this human here. There's some shin pads and there's this cool purple cape. And that's why Shredder became a bad guy.
There ends up being like this vigilante sidekick Ninja Turtles that literally is just a guy with a hockey mask.
Yeah.
Fuck.
My goodness.
Who came up with this? Why is this
April,
popular?
You get the yellow jumper. Go pursue a career in news reporting.
Journalism. Fuck's sake.
Amazing.
Wow. Okay, now that we've just dismantled everyone's childhood,
single-handedly
should we
is worth it.
Talk about some video games? Check my chat. We talk about them constantly, all the time. Sometimes talk about irradiated turtles. So
yeah, it's a good time.
I'm gonna just write that down because I know by the end of this podcast I will not remember that I said irradiated turtles, and that seems like a pretty good title to me.
It's a great title. Cool. But Joe, we talk about some games.
And given the time
break,
off,
we've played some games. You're gonna have to.
I will just offhandedly say I finished Horizon. It's done. You'll never have to hear about it on this podcast again. Second half of that game, pretty good.
But you started Elden Ring, so we're going to talk about it for the next 10 weeks.
Yeah. So I started Elden Ring, but now I'm playing other games because I'm like, I think I need to talk about some more modern games now.
You need like the quiet time that comes in the next month or two to sink your teeth into Elden Ring.
It really is. Hey, there's like very little in the next 2 months. So I'm actually kind of grateful that we get to do that. I've just now remembered we left something very crucial out of news, but we'll get to that.
I know. What happened?
The one game that both of us, you finished, I sort of played it. I guess you can call it finished on my side because I don't plan to play it anymore. But you finished Ghostwire Tokyo, the latest game from
Tango
Evil Thin
Games.
Creators, Tango Games.
Correct.
This game it's weird.
So let's start with the most glaring question. Well, not a question I've been dying to ask you. Did you play in performance mode or quality mode?
Performance mode.
Performance mode. What did you think of quality mode?
I tried it a bit. I think it definitely looks a bit better because quality mode has the whole ray tracing, and in a world where it's constantly raining, that kind of works really nicely. But it just felt super sluggish, did not enjoy it. To me, even in performance mode, I started messing around with the controls because I was like, wow, turning around feels weird.
100%. I upped the sensitivity on turning because it just felt slow. So
it felt slow, but also it had a weird acceleration curve. It would be
it
sort of fast
slow
and then super slow, you hit mud or something. It just did not feel great. Considering that this game actually at its essence is, honestly, this game is a first-person shooter. If you had to ask me.
It's a first-person shooter. Yeah. So the reason I asked about performance and quality is because I grabbed footage of both, and I was like, I don't know which one to show. So people watching the video feed, you're watching performance mode. It's silky smooth. It's got a little bit less reflective shenanigans and visual effects.
Still looks really good.
But the game, I think, let's start visually. The game looks good. If you're gonna play it though, I think performance mode is the way to go because, like we said, the game itself feels very sluggish. But we'll
also just straight performance mode because there's six different.
There's 4,000 modes in this game.
Yeah, just stick to normal performance mode. I actually genuinely don't know what the others properly do. So.
Yeah. But let's backpedal a bit, I guess, and just say what Ghostwire Tokyo is. So you said it's the latest game from Tango Games, People Behind Evil Within 1 and 2, which, if you know, I can't for the life of me remember the guy's name, but it's basically the guy who invented Resident Evil, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if he's there anymore.
No, I don't know if he's there anymore, but that's their claim to fame. He works on
Shinji Mikami.
He works on Evil Within 1 and 2, and then that studio went, you know what? We're going to explore a first-person game. And, when Ghostwire Tokyo was first revealed, it was like, holy shit, first-person horror game from these people. That seems like a good time. Unfortunately, the game it's the atmosphere nailed. Very cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Very spooky, but it's calling this a horror game, I feels like a stretch. It's very you hit the nail on the head. It's a first person shooter. But it's weird because yeah, but we'll get to it. So the story basically is, even the story itself, I'm like, you start out, you've clearly been in some accidents of some sort, and somebody possesses your body. The main character's name is Akito, and then you find out that basically a cop named KK, who is now a spirit, has possessed you, and you two kind of have to work together to figure out what's going on in this town that has now just been wiped out completely and taken over by demons. And that's really the story in a nutshell. Also, Akito has a sister who has been taken by the big bad guy wearing a mask, and that's about all you need to know about the story, because I don't think it really goes further than that, other than, the relationship of the two. They start off very strained because Akito's like, hey, I'm a human. Get out my body, you spirit. The spirit's like, you're actually dead. But yeah, over the story, they get a bit closer, and yeah, that's quite cool. But story aside, the game is a, open world exploration game where you just have to, find your way to Akito's sister and figure out what is going on with this bad guy. But the journey there, not so good, because I don't know, Ghostwire Tokyo is this weird game that misses on so many fronts. I know we keep saying it's a shooter, but because it feels like a shooter, you've got these hand attacks that you use to get rid of these enemies. But yeah, I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah. So I think you're right. It nails the atmosphere. Like you're walking through the streets of Tokyo, and it is like it's like a pseudo open world. It's like you have these areas to explore at will, but you've got this fog that kind of blocks off other areas of the city until you cleanse a sort of gate. So like if you think of like Far Cry and its towers, the towers was sort of like what revealed the map. These gates are essentially what lets you explore the rest of the map. So as you're progressing between story missions, you have to routinely stop to cleanse these gates so you can actually get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
And that's what's strange to me, is that that's the whole loop of the game. Like that loop is kind of introduced in the first hour, and then that's it. Like it doesn't, I mean, I've only played about 2 or so hours, but speaking to you, you were like, that loop doesn't really get altered in any fundamental way, from the beginning to the end. And so, yeah.
No, I was going to say, it's funny because I said to you before we started recording that watching the trailers, because you don't know what's actually happening, it looks very cool. You're like, wow, look at all these hand spells, these effects, visually gorgeous. Like, I won't crit the game on that front because it is, taking down these demons and enemies looks really good. But when you get into the game, I laugh because you played the first hour, and then I was like, well, what spells do you have? And you said, I've got the wind attack, I've got the fire attack, and I've got the water attack. And I was like, well, spoiler, you've got all the spells. And you had that within the first hour.
That.
Yeah. I mean, and you get other tools, right? So did you ever get the bow and arrow?
Yeah. I got the bow and arrow. You also get that fairly early.
You get that fairly early.
That seems more like a tool than a weapon. You're using it.
They used it
sometimes.
Okay, so you use a bow and arrow to cleanse those trees, right?
Yes.
Okay, but you can just use your spells on those trees.
Are you?
Which I figured out like many hours in. I was like, oh, then why do I even need this bow and arrow? Why would I ever use this?
Yeah, because it doesn't really hurt enemies.
No,
either.
So mechanically it's used. There are some story beats where you are separated from KK. And obviously you don't have the powers, and you have to, it's more like stealth, you have to use a bow and arrow. But other than that, it's like, it's a tool you don't really use. Like, why would you use it? Yeah. And then you get some other utility spells. So for example, you get a stun talisman, which, throw it down, and it creates a little area of effect that enemies get stuck in. But like, you get 3 main spells, which, I don't know, it feels like it's such a missed opportunity. I mean, look, within these spells, you get some variation, right? Like your water attack, if you tap attack, you just shoot once, whatever. But if you hold and charge up an attack and let go, you do a couple,
like an area of an effect attack. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like a couple of attacks are released. And the same applies to the others, right? Like the fire one, it's a straight projectile, but if you hold it, it becomes like a bomb. I think the best description I heard is that your wind attack is like a pistol, your red attack's like a rocket launcher, and your wind attack's a lot like a shotgun because it's short range but high area of effect.
Wide area of effect.
Yeah. And like the bones are there, but then why was that not expanded on? Like even the skill, so you get a skill tree in this game where you can improve these abilities, but even those, it's like, cool, you've got this rocket launcher. If you upgrade it, it'll have a bigger area of effect.
Yeah, like, they're very boring upgrades.
It's not like you can now, I don't know, shoot 2 or 3 of them or lay it down as a mine, for example. It's very like basic things. It's like it's not really fun.
And
I
think what makes it worse is that, again, the enemies, I feel like in the first half an hour I had seen the enemies were just repeating constantly and they weren't doing anything different. Like they were just like, so you see these like Slender Man with like umbrellas, they just run at you.
They run at you.
And then every now and then they'll shoot a projectile at you. And then you get these like headless like schoolgirls who kind of just do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I don't need to think about what spell I'm using.
No, you just
because the enemies aren't really forcing me to do anything. So I'm just like, cool, well, fire seems fun to use here, or like wind seems fun to use here, or and you and Darren, I remember we're talking a lot about the core mechanics. So once you've done enough damage to an enemy, you can just hold down L2 and you like do this. It looks very Doctor Strange vibe thing. You like grab this core and you've got these like yellow energy strings in there. You can see it in the footage now, and you're like pulling out their heart, and it feels kind of cool. Well, you guys were like, oh, it feels amazing on the controller. I was like, it just feels like it's vibrating to me. So maybe I'm missing something.
I think it's more, it just feels satisfying to do.
Yes, like it looks incredible. Like the animation, you can feel like the tension of the kind of like pull on each time. But all it is like a instant death animation. And once I'd done it like a handful of times, I was like, okay, this is the same thing over and over again. So I think that's like my biggest issue with the game is like 2 hours in, I already felt like I'd done every sort of type of activity that the game had to offer. Yeah. And it was just throwing that again and again and again at me. Like, go to this waypoint, kill 3 enemies, absorb souls, do that ad nauseum. Like, and I was just like, I'm done. Like, I think I've seen what I need to of this game, essentially.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it over the week, and I think that's not my biggest criticism, but a criticism of the game is that, like, what makes Doom fun? Think about it. Like, you get all these tools. There's a whole lot of enemies to take out. It's fast paced, right?
There's certain weapons that are better against other enemies.
This game is not that. Like, it almost feels like there should be a Doom-esque game because it's not horror, okay? But cool, that we're going to make you fight all these enemies, but we're going to give you very slow movement speed. They're not going to like flank you. They're just going to run at you. You're just going to backpedal away, keep your distance, and just keep tapping fire. Whereas like Doom, it's a thing of, you move around fast, you sprint around, you've got a whole lot of different weapons to choose. It feels like this game would have benefited from that sort of thing, include more spells, give Akito some movement options, like make him run faster for starters, okay?
Or if you're going to make it slow and purposeful, like make the enemies more complex so that you have to, use your movement wisely or your skills wisely.
Exactly, But that brings me to our next point, where it's the thing of, okay, so it's not Doom. It's not a fast-paced shooter. It's meant to be a horror game like Resident Evil. What makes Resident Evil good, though? It's the tension and figuring out how to, get rid of enemies with, you've got ample ammunition, but it always feels like you might just run out at any point. This game's neither of those. Like, it's weird because on a visual front, it makes me think like it should have been kind of like a Doom. It's flashy. It's got enemies for you to take down. It doesn't do that. It's meant to be a horror game like Resident Evil, but it doesn't do that either. So I'm like, I don't know.
It sits somewhere between. I'm not sure entirely what. Like, I can sort of get what they were going for. Like, they wanted this pseudo open world thing, in these very densely detailed streets of Tokyo, which look phenomenal.
Yeah.
But then it was just like, to me, it feels like this game at some point wasn't open world; it was linear.
Yeah.
And then it turned into this
100%.
open world thing, and they just didn't have things to do there with that.
Yeah. Even and that is my last point, is that this should not be an open world game. If it were a set piece, linear story, I think it would have been a lot better. And, it would have maybe given them opportunity to do more interesting things outside of just cleanse this gate, do this thing.
And I think you can see that in just how, I'm not one to bemoan length or whatever, because I think a short, tight experience is better than a long, drawn out one. But like, you finished the game in like 10 hours.
Yeah, 11
so to
hours.
me, it tells me that there was definitely this plan to make it more linear, and then they just put this open world bloat in between. And it just, I don't know, I don't get it. I just really do not. I don't understand like what this game, like its ultimate vibe is. It feels like a lot of ideas that just exist together and they do not coalesce at all.
100%. Which is such a pity, because like, I mean, I know I say this about a lot of games that miss the mark, but I feel a sequel could do this game justice. Like, the end feels like, it doesn't need a sequel. But if they were to use the same characters or just do an alternate game somewhere else, and they take lessons from it and make it a linear, more purposeful game, like, I'd be very keen to play that, because like the visual effects in this game, I really enjoyed it. It's like, there's a reason I finished it. It's like a bit of a grudge thing of like, I'm 6-7 hours in, I might as well see it to its end. But I wouldn't say no to seeing, what could they improve on this game with the sequel, taking these lessons to heart. It's weird because this game will come to Game Pass in a year, because it's Bethesda's now Xbox owned. It's timed exclusive on PlayStation, and it's on PC as well. This is a Game Pass game. Like if I told somebody like, Ghostwire Tokyo is okay, and it's on Game Pass, you can try it out. Cool. There's no commitment financially. I'm not gonna get somebody to spend 1,000 rand and they go, oh man, I can't believe I dropped 1,000 rand in this game, whatever it costs. It's the thing of like, I played on Game Pass. I either really liked the open world side of it or I hated it. Like, it's the perfect Game Pass game. So
if you sit down with this for a bit and you've just downloaded it, you might find things that you enjoy, and you might put up with it a bit more because you haven't spent, Sony's $70 on this. This just doesn't. It doesn't reach that same bar in my view. Like when you're comparing this to the likes of other exclusives that have come out on PS5, like your Deathloop even.
I was going to say the other Bethesda,
just feels on a completely different ballpark.
Better. Stands head and shoulders above this game. Just a pity.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
It's a really missed mark. But that's my thoughts on it.
I would love to know, like, I feel like this game is ripe for a story in a year or two to be like, this is what Ghostwire Tokyo actually was like a year or two before it was put out. Because, I mean, we saw this game like 3-4 years ago at E3, and it just doesn't, visually, it definitely sustains that vibe. But I just feel like the game is different.
Something happened.
Something happened, you know what I mean? What was the developer who was on stage, Nakumi Nakamura?
Yeah.
She left the studio like not long after. She like basically gave this game a huge presence at E3 with her charming stage presence.
Some meme-worthy presence.
So it's just like, did this game like fundamentally change design-wise that people weren't vibing with, or I don't know. I'm curious to know. I feel like there is a story here.
Yeah.
But the story right now is, I don't think you need to rush out to buy this game. I just don't.
It's a Game Pass game through and through.
Yeah, it's a Game Pass game. And
I think
it's got some cool elements.
Exactly. I think it's some people will definitely vibe with it, but
I think it's worse than Evil Within. Like, I know some people really vibed with Evil Within, some didn't. I think Evil Within is good, not fantastic, but I do think I think rather go play Evil Within 2.
But Evil Within is more horror.
Yeah, it's a completely different game.
Yeah. So pity.
Yeah.
But that is Ghostwire Tokyo. Sad. You hate to see it.
Hate to see it. In things you don't hate to see, I've actually forgotten what game you're talking about now. Oh, yes. More exclusives. This time on the Nintendo front.
Yeah, we're catching up here on
Pink Murder Ball Simulator 5, also known as Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Is it Kirby and the Forgotten Land?
Kirby and the Forgotten Land, I think. In a complete 180, this game does not feature dark environments or hand spells. It's just a game about a pink blob eating everything in sight.
Yeah, murder blob.
Let me tell you, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is really, really, really good. Which it's interesting because I always think when it comes to Nintendo, right, there are these quote unquote B tier franchises which are often overshadowed by, the Marios and the Zeldas. And Kirby's one of them, where Kirby games come out pretty regularly and they have been coming out for many decades now, but they never. I'd never sit up and say that Kirby game is better than Mario or wow, that's a Game of the Year contender. I don't know. This Kirby game, it's sorry for the comparison. It reminds me of, one of a really good Mario game where
a lot of people have been comparing it to Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, it's got so much similarity in the sense that, you enter so Mario Odyssey, to be clear, is the thing of you enter, a sort of an open hub. Each level is a bit of like an open hub, and there are a ton of what are they called? Moons.
There were moons. Yes.
Yeah, there are like tons of moons to collect, and the part of the charm of that game was, just finding one every minute or every 2 minutes by doing something random. It's like you throw Cappy at, I don't know, a lamppost which opens up a platform to a roof. Oh, there's a moon there. Like that's the level of what you're doing there. In this Kirby game, you basically have to get from point A to B. The levels are pretty straightforward. They're not hubs, I would say, but they're big. They're wide.
That's
areas.
interesting because I always thought it was a semi-open world thing from the trailers.
No, you think it is, but it is very much you're going from point A to B. But the journey there, it's not like you're walking on one linear path. There might be a wide area to get there with little side things to explore. But the charm in this comes in the thing that when you finish a level, you could just finish a level, right? But there are many objectives you can tick off, which aren't explicitly told to you. And so, for example, you might have a level that says, get rid of the Kirby wanted poster. And that's it. Okay. You'll get what are the little, I've blanked out now. You're trying to free the little, God, I've gone blank. I don't know what they're called. Those other round characters.
I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what their name is.
I've blanked on the
names.
names.
I don't think I've ever known what their name is.
So, story purposes, they've been kidnapped. You need to free all of them. But by doing these side objectives, you'll get one or two per level. So I'm muddling my words here. If you do a level from A to B, okay, you might free 5 out of 10 of those characters. So this is actually a great point to pause. Let me just pause here for video viewers. So you see, I got 3 for clearing the stage, right? Okay. I get 1 for greeting 3 seabirds.
Okay.
I get 1 for digging up a Maxim tomato. And then there's one here that says, save the hidden Waddle Dees. There's 4. I only found 3 of them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you understand. So there's every level
it's
has
like side objectives within each mission.
Exactly. And I mean, apart from the obvious ones like save the hidden Waddle Dees, the ones that follow are usually obscure and you don't actually know what they are unless you accidentally do them or you finish the level and they reveal to you. So like there is incentive to replay the levels because it is random stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, one of them is get rid of the Kirby wanted poster. So I was like, oh, that's weird. Replay the level. Oh, there's a hand-drawn like crayon poster of Kirby and I destroy it and I get a Waddle Dee as a reward. So the game is lots of levels just packed with lots of cool side content. Well, it's not even side content, just with cool objectives to do. And just in doing them, it's fun. It's a Kirby game. You get a whack of different abilities to copy. And it just feels good. Like the platforming is tight. The abilities are fun to use. And it's just, like what a damn fun Kirby game. Like if you're watching the video feed now, so I've got the drill, but I'm about to I'm about to steal this ability. I can now become this
spiky
thing.
boy.
Which is just so ridiculous, but it's so fun.
So yeah, you see things like this. I mean, this has always been part of Kirby's repertoire. It's like he absorbs, it absorbs things.
I think it's interesting. I did look it up. It is a he. Oh, there's a Kirby wanted poster.
Really?
See, look there. Remove 3 wanted posters.
So he like absorbs abilities of things he eats, just like me. And you know, that's his whole shtick. So it's like you could say Odyssey kind of borrowed that, but there definitely seems to be this vibe here of like this item is required for this part of the level. And stuff.
And to be clear, like I haven't encountered it yet where I've played a level and I'm like, oh, I need the fire ability here. It's more a thing of you usually get the tool you need in that level.
Yes,
which is quite cool.
And so I want to know a bit more. I've seen it a bit in the video here, but what the fuck is this mouthful mode? What is going on?
So I think the box key feature, one of the key features of this game is that, as you've said, you get a mouthful mode where Kirby, outside from copying abilities, can just do even more and very specific things on certain levels. So here's a good example. So there's this file cabinet, mouthful mode. I can eat the whole cabinet.
Oh my goodness.
I am the cabinet. I pull the cabinet over. There's a Waddle Dee hiding behind it. But
it's like Kirby's trying to get his mouth around a really big burger.
Exactly.
And then accidentally it's a cupboard.
But they use it in really fun ways. I mean, the most obvious one you've seen probably from trailers is that there are a couple of levels where Kirby will just inhale a car.
Love it. Yeah.
Which then becomes, for the rest of that level, you drive around as a car doing some fast platforming. It's used in the most obscure ways. You might have seen earlier in the video feed, I became a lift, I guess, that could just move up and down. I became like one of those concrete round things to roll down a hill. if I scrub ahead, I think I did get this recorded yesterday. Just hard pause. How cool is this ability I have? I can become a tornado.
I just saw your little tornado. That's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Okay.
But look at this mouthful mode. I think it's just over here. Oh wait, no, that's the end of the level.
So there's an overworld with different level. Oh wow, Kirby is a floating carpet.
Oh yeah, hang on. I'm just going to show you the animation. Yeah, oh my god, I keep going ahead. Yeah, look, it's an archway. Except when Kirby eats it, becomes like a flying thing.
He looks like a massive frisbee. So it's amazing. I love that.
I think the biggest takeaway from this game is that it's like whenever I'm playing, I'm just smiling. Like I'm just happy. I feel good. It's just dumb, silly fun, but in the best way because it catches you by surprise because you're like, well, what's Kirby going to eat next? What's the next ability I'm going to unlock or use? I mean, sorry, I know audio listeners are getting a raw deal here, but we'll tell you the moment I'm playing as a flying disc, doing like almost looks like a Star Fox segment. I'm just flying through an area, collecting some rings
and there's some enemies. Yeah. But it's weird because it's like Kirby's pink skin is just flapping in the wind. It's kind of really strange. So, I've enjoyed Kirby games in the past, especially on the 3DS. There was like Kirby something Roboto. I think it was Planet Roboto. Very cool game. But I've always found, Kirby games are designed for a specific audience, like specifically younger children. So they are generally like very easy. Are you finding that sort of thing here as well?
I mean, look, the game's it's not Elden Ring. Okay. You're not gonna,
how dare
you're gonna die a lot. No, but I think the platforming in itself is very, it presents a challenge and it's satisfying. It's not necessarily impossible.
But it's satisfying to nail things.
And I mean, and there are some bosses in the game that actually presents a really nice challenge in that, look, they're not going to, make your life hell, but they're fun to take down because you use your copy ability to chip away at a huge health bar. And if you find the game is like really kicking you in the teeth, you can put it on easy mode, to make it more palatable. I actually did have a boss fight saved here, but yeah, it's just been surprising because this game, I just thought, it's another Kirby game. Here's a boss fight. That's exactly what I mean. It's just another Kirby game. Like, what could they really do differently? But I don't know. This is like a peak Kirby game. It does a lot of things right, and it's just such a joy to play. Like
maybe a good mark for the series to come out of that B tier status.
Yeah, this is definitely a benchmark, and like I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, look, I don't think it's gonna be Game of the Year with the likes of Elden Ring or whatever comes up later this year, but there's no doubt this is a really high quality, excellent game that deserves all the accolades it has received. Like, I do believe it will win awards, it come end of the year in a number of categories because it is so well designed and it's just fun to play.
And what a nice surprise, because it's like they only announced it like late last year for the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was. I think it was late last year they showed it, and then this year,
and then it was like, it's out in March.
It's out, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's pretty cool. As opposed to the waiting 5 years for sequels. Okay, that's cool. I mean, I'm super keen to try this. I also need a reason to start playing my Switch again. And this looks like the perfect thing. So keen to give this a go. It looks really good too. Like,
it's visually
good art direction. Yeah, I quite enjoy it.
Yeah, and performance-wise, like it's not Nintendo are known for their smooth 60 FPS. It's not that, but I mean, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, listen, the Switch, as much as I love it, is getting long in the tooth from the hardware side, and that's why. Things like, when you see things like, the new Zelda's only coming out next year, it's like, oof.
Is that coming with the new Switch? What's going on? Yeah. But exactly, you say that, but Breath of the Wild did launch on the Wii U as well.
Yeah, but even when it launched on the Switch, it didn't run the best. Game is good, but I'm not going to ignore that when you were in that Korok Forest, shit was a bit dire there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that was
the first order of the day for Breath of the Wild is like, cut the Korok Forest.
Just don't do the Korok Forest. Yeah. Okay.
But look at this Kirby
looks
game.
Fun.
It's so fun. That's the Waddle Dees. It's good fun, man. I'm having a great time with this game.
Nice.
Oh, also it's 2-player. You can partner up with someone, which is quite cool.
Completely co-op.
Yeah, I haven't tried it myself,
that is cool.
But if I'm not mistaken, you can completely co-op, but you get a little Waddle Dee buddy to help you.
I might play this with Shani then. That sounds like a fun time, actually.
I need to try this Lenska one day.
Okay.
Little Kirby. She's like, what?
Cool. Okay. Last game on the agenda that I've played a bunch of now already. And you started last night.
Some of
Tunic. It's a game that has been kind of teased and shown off for a very long time. It falls into the category of Cuphead for me, where it was like one of those 5-second snippets on one of those Irradiated Xbox trailers, and everyone's like, wait, more of that. I want to see more. What was that? I want to see that. Yeah.
Shows the Fox Zelda game.
Shows the Fox Zelda. Yeah. It's very funny because it genuinely is like Fox Zelda, and then when you think about it, the game is named after his green tunic.
And you're I think oh my God. It's very, very clever way to be like, hey, I've taken clear inspiration from this beloved franchise and named it something that's iconic, but not at all linked to that franchise. Linked. See what I did there?
So yeah, Tunic is very much an isometric Zelda game. I think if you've ever played something like A Link to the Past or A Link Between Worlds, or most recently Link's Awakening on Nintendo Switch, you'll kind of know what you're getting into here. I do think, though, that it is different in some very fundamental ways. Firstly, combat is way harder than any Zelda game I've ever played. Yeah, it actually borrows some elements from the Souls, in my view. I don't think it's nearly as hard as them, because I know some people are like, as soon as they hear that, they switch off. It's definitely not as hard as that. But it's got this idea of like you rest at campfires and then the enemies respawn. And wherever you die, you leave a sort of little fox hologram.
Yeah.
I do really like that when you reclaim your little soul, it does like a big attack. So if it's in the middle of like a bunch of enemies, it just clears them. Yeah. Very, very neat. So yeah, you kind of explore these diorama worlds. It's all interconnected into one bigger world. And you're kind of just like going through the motions, going between different areas, which are like pseudo dungeons, and kind of just, I'm not entirely sure what the story is. I can't really tell you. I just know there's like magic in this world, and it's like very charming and very cute. The thing that is absolutely blowing me away with this game is just the incredible level design. It really is. I think you need to go into this game with the mindset of the perspective is very much purposeful. Yeah, it's hiding things in plain sight. Yeah, it wants to be like, cool, you can only see from this angle. We are going to put things just out of view so that you kind of need to experiment with where you're moving in the world to kind of, uncover secrets. And I think if you go in with that mindset, you will find a lot of the secrets the game expects you to find. Like, you start poking around little corners, which you think like, oh, maybe there's a pathway there. And trues Bob, 9 times out of 10, there's like actually a pathway there. But last night, I've had like 2 or 3 now, just straight up like gasp out moments where I've taken a ladder after a long dungeon run up somewhere, and it's popped me back somewhere in the overworld. And I'm like, oh my God, this thing was always here. It was never gated off. I could have just found this.
Exactly.
And so this game is open to like some incredible sequence breaking, because most of the paths that lead to critical things are actually just there. You just don't know they're there.
Just don't know they're there.
Yeah, they're hidden in plain sight. There's there's this really great moment last night where I got a lantern, and literally the room before I got the lantern, I walked back into it and realized there were like 2 doors in that room that I did not see just because I didn't have light. And I would have never have thought to look where they were. Yeah. But now that I had this thing, it's just like incredible shit like that. It's really on the level of a From Software in that regard.
Yeah, but the way really the levels fold onto each other. I mean, I was telling you before we started recording that. So I've only played maybe an hour and a half. So very early days compared to you. But there's one part early on where you do a whole like little side area, and then you climb down a ladder, walk behind a waterfall, and pop out into a very accessible area. And I was like, oh my God, this pathway was here the whole time. It's there. It's not even like hidden in plain sight is the perfect expression, because like it's there.
Yeah, it's not like you need an item to access it. No, it's just there.
It's not like I hit the wall, or I hit a lever, and then it's like, no, you just have to look. It's there. It's really right there.
This game is ripe for exploration. It wants you to poke and prod at it. And I've noticed in some cases it's very smart about how it uses its perspective, because like you will see the tiniest corner of a chest or something like that. And then if you hit left trigger, you slightly shift the camera to another perspective, and then you can see it. And you're like, oh, okay, I know how to get there.
That's clever.
But then on top of it, you've just got really robust combat. I think that I've got to the point where I can upgrade things, and it's just opening up in very interesting ways. I've got magic now as well, so that's opened up a whole new dynamic to the combat. But then I think also one of the coolest parts of this game are these little pieces of like parchment that you find lying around.
What an awesome touch.
So these little pieces are essentially pieces of, I guess, like a game book. I guess if this game was physical, like something that would come in the case. They have just the most incredible art design to them. And they kind of showcase some of the game's mechanics. And again, they explain mechanics that you are able to make use of from the beginning of the game. Yeah. But you're never told that those mechanics exist. So for about a solid hour yesterday, I was picking up items that I didn't know what to do with. Like I had no idea what they did. When I opened them in my menu, there were just like question marks there. Yeah. The game has a sort of like a language to it that you can't decipher. Like, so you can't read up descriptions on the things. They have descriptions. Like even now, when you picked up the sword in the footage that we saw, it came up with a message and 2 options like yes or no. But it doesn't tell you what the message is. Like so you don't actually know what you're doing.
I just signed my life away.
Exactly. But then this game book slowly fills in the blanks of that and its world. So like these items that I found a piece of this game manual that eventually said, oh, if I open up my inventory when I'm at a shrine, then I can actually use those items. And I was like, oh my God, like when I play this game again, I can do that from
You
the
can do it
get-go.
from the
I don't have to
beginning,
wait to get that. Like, it tells you how to sprint. It tells you the windows of your invincibility when you roll. And so it slowly gives you these different mechanics that have always kind of been there, but it just kind of explains them to you in a very digestible and slow way. And I've never seen a game that does that, and I think it's fucking genius.
Well, have you paid attention that have you ever got into so when you pick up these pages, it almost adds to like, you know, an overarching manual. There's like a grand manual.
They each have like page numbers. Yeah.
Have you ever gone to the end and seen what you see? If you just hold left, it like pulls away and it looks like you're looking at a manual, and behind it is a pixelated screen, which is basically being like you are playing a game. That's what it's showing you.
Oh my God.
Have a look. You'll see.
Notice that.
Yeah, so I've noticed every time you pull open the manual.
That is amazing.
It's almost like this effect that happens where it's like you meant to be a person, like you represent it as a person playing the game, reading through a manual, and the screen's just to the right. Like page 2 all the way to the end of the manual, and just hold left. You'll see what I mean. It's such a small, subtle touch, but it's very cool. Yeah, it's too good.
It's really and like I cannot. Every time I see one in the overworld, I'm just like, oh my God, I need to go get that. I really want to see it. Like they have to make a physical version of that booklet. Like 100%. I want it because the artwork in it is it's incredible. So good.
On that, can we just highlight the fact that this game is made by about one person?
I cannot believe that.
A single person.
Again, we were talking about Ghostwire earlier and how it could have learned from so many other games. This game takes so many good lessons from so many different genres and but
nails them,
just perfects them.
Like the level design, that's one thing that always blows my mind. Whether it's a indie studio or AAA studio, a game that's designed well. Like I think the closest comparison I have recently is Metroid Dread. It's a thing of you think how did they've managed to put this together where I'm doing this whole side area and then I pop out and like of course it folds back into where I need to go. And this game does
so
that.
expertly designed.
It's one person who's not only nailed the combat, the visuals, the soundtrack, which is also really good.
Yes.
The art design and the little manual, but it's also somehow managed to design this world in a way that, you know, like we said, I don't think we said it before we started recording it. You can break the game, right, if you know where to go. But if you don't, you're playing it for the first time, it like subtly funnels you in the right direction. It's so clever.
I haven't felt lost yet.
No.
I always feel like I'm moving around and doing stuff. And I've taken small notes of things that I'm like, okay, this is clearly something I don't understand how to interact with this yet. And I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Eventually. It reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you played back in the day, but a game called Fez, which was more a puzzle game, but it's sort of similar. It funnels you towards your objectives, but there are instances where you see something and you're like, it's not like, oh, I don't have the ability for this. It's like, I do not have the knowledge to know what I need to do here. Yeah. And there will be something that unlocks or something that I read in a manual and it will be like, oh, all of those things I saw suddenly make sense. It actually happened to me yesterday. I got a piece of a manual that showed a structure that I'd seen twice already. And it was like, oh, when you see that thing, you need to hold this button in front of it. And I was like, I could have done that if I'd known. Now I can go back there and do that. And it activates something or progresses the story in some interesting way. So I'd say speedrunners are going to have a fucking blast with this game.
I can't wait to, finish it myself and then go watch how people not even break the game. They're just going to figure out how to sequence break it.
They're going to optimize the sequence breaking. Yeah. Because you can fight bosses out of order. Like I've seen now you are fighting the guard captain, which is technically the first boss of the game. There is a way, I don't know how, but there is a way to get here without having the sword.
How? You need the sword to cut
it's fucking crazy
the
to me. Like, yeah. But it's possible. There are people who have inadvertently got to this boss somehow just through the way they translate the world and perceive the world. They've gotten there in a different way. Whereas I'm sure the critical path is like, take a sword. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so good. This game is the first game this year that is genuinely like, it's just wowed me. Just every single bit of it. I just love it. Absolutely love it.
It's too good.
Yeah.
What a game. My only criticism, it's not really a criticism, is that I feel that you get the shield too late, because that makes combat
it's very
way
late.
more palatable. Like, the moment you can block it, I feel like I can take on anything. But without it, I'm like, oh God.
There's also like instances where you come up against like shooting turrets that
oh my God,
you need that shield
those
to
turrets
get
are
by
the
them.
absolute
Like,
worst. Yes, hate them.
I mean, on that, the one criticism I have as well is maybe this is because of muscle memory with Zelda, but I always find myself locking onto an enemy with left trigger and thinking immediately that will bring up my shield as well, and it doesn't.
100%, yeah.
You need to press the right trigger.
I almost feel that I need to swap those buttons around.
Yes.
Just out of like,
100%.
because out of habit, I feel like left trigger will be blocked, but it's not. That's to focus on people. So I think I might do that.
The number of times I focused on someone, then I get hit and I take damage. I'm like, wait a minute, what? And I was like, oh, I wasn't holding. Because Zelda is like, as soon as you lock on an enemy, Link puts up his shield. Yeah. So yeah, it's probably purposeful, but like if I could change that, I probably would.
100%.
But yeah, it's got really good. The combat's good. Everything. I love this
Great game.
So
Can't
much.
wait to actually.
I cannot believe it's on
it.
Game Pass. It feels like a steal to be playing this game and not paying the $30, but it is so fucking good.
Yeah,
I cannot wait. I'm sure it will come to other platforms. Because right now it's only on PC and Xbox. But yeah, that game on Switch will be great. 10 out of 10. Yeah, really good game.
Cool. Yeah, Tunic. Great
game. So far, my front runner for this year by far.
Elden Ring says hello.
Yeah, I mean, I did start Elden Ring. I got whacked by that tree sentinel and then killed a boss in a cave with wolves. Game's good. I did the tutorial. Even as a seasoned Souls player, that tutorial teaches me things.
It's the most From thing though to put the tutorial in a pit. It's like
the jump stance break. I'm like, oh, that's new. Okay, I probably should know that. Yeah.
Well, jump itself is new in that game, so
yeah. Oh, although I guess if you played Sekiro, Sekiro made that jump so critical so quickly. No. Jump parries in Sekiro. What a time. Should we move on to game releases?
Let's fly through this. We've got 40 minutes. To get all through the rest of the stuff.
Game releases. So we're looking at game releases from today, April 2nd, until April the 8th. And there are 5 games.
A whole 5 games?
Yeah, 5 games. We've got Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga, coming to basically all platforms. I'm very, very excited for this game because it's like the Lego games with a complete like overhaul on mechanics. Like it, they're actually a new game now, so very keen to get going on this.
Is this across all 9 films?
Yeah.
It's
a lot. That's a lot going on.
Goodness.
Yeah. We got MLB The Show coming to Nintendo Switch because as far as I know, MLB The Show came out on other platforms this Friday. I saw people playing it.
I think you get early access as well. Maybe I'm wrong.
It might be early access. I'm not entirely sure. Then we've got Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition.
That remake of...
Is that a remake?
I think it's they showed us at that last Nintendo showcase, if I'm not mistaken, and people lost their shirts going like, oh my God, they finally ported this beloved classic or whatever. Yeah,
I've never played a Chrono Cross.
Even
are Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger related? I assume they are.
I think Chrono Cross came after Chrono Trigger. I could be wrong.
I bet Umar, if he's listening to us, is busy like dying very slowly.
How dare these fake weeboos.
Then also on April 7th, they've got a game called Out There, Oceans of Time.
Oceans of Time.
Okay. And then April 7th, Forgive Me Father, come to PC. That's it.
Cool.
Cool. Not much really happening for the rest of the month. The big one for me, Nintendo Switch Sports. Hell yeah, let's go.
Oh, yes.
Fuck yeah, give me some motion sports. I'm down. I'm down.
News.
Then let's hop to news. I think actually... I know the news I think should headline this, or maybe it shouldn't. I don't know. Which do you think is bigger? PlayStation Pass subscriptions or Breath of the Wild 2 delayed, which we somehow completely omitted. Yeah.
Breath
of the Wild. Let's go.
You want Breath
Let's
of the
go.
Wild? Okay. Let me
Breath of the Wild 2
Of the
delayed.
Wild 2
So if you recall, Breath of the Wild 2 was originally scheduled for a 2022 launch, but we had the game's producer, Eiji Onuma, release a video basically saying that they need to take more time and that the game will now only launch in spring 2023, which is basically March to June 2023.
Yeah. It's like a whole year. Yeah.
It's a year, essentially. And this ties in with what I said earlier. Like, boy, the Switch is going to be
Real
6
old.
and a bit years old by then. And we are in, I don't think in dire need. I don't think it's dire, but I think a Switch revision or a Switch 2 with slightly more powerful hardware will go a long way to that. Or Breath of the Wild 2 is the swan song for the Switch. You know what I mean?
Like
it opened up the Switch. It ends off the Switch. Although it surely can't end off the Switch when we've got games like Metroid Prime 4 still like kicking around. So, but yeah, there was some new footage in here. You got to see like Link with a sort of corrupted Master Sword. Like that thing looks rusted AF. I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, it's just wild to me that they literally blew everyone away by teasing this in 2019.
Yeah,
E3
that was
first
too
trailer.
early. It's too early.
It was too early. It was way too early. It's the same with thing with Metroid Prime 4. That was 2018 or 2017.
Yeah.
And it was like, my dudes, what are you doing? Like,
Just relax.
Nah.
Just
Yeah.
relax.
I mean, there's still a lot coming out this year on Switch. You've got Splatoon 3, Bayonetta 3, maybe. Who the fuck knows anymore?
Mario has been weirdly absent this year.
Yeah, Mario.
So I think we might get a shadow drop of a something. I don't know what, but
Odyssey was the last big core Mario game.
Bowser's Fury 2, let's go.
We are due one. We've got new Pokemon generation coming out this year. Can you believe it? Listen, I need Bayonetta 3 to be good.
Yep, and that's I think it'll be good. It's just
and the game that Platinum Games just launched, Babylon's Fall's not good.
Not good.
And I'm just like,
look, a delay is always a hard pill to swallow, but when you look at games like more recently, look, I don't think Ghostwire Tokyo was rushed, right? But it feels like some development shit happened there that maybe more time would have helped. I don't know. But you get games like that. You get, obviously, there's a whole Cyberpunk fiasco, which I think that is the one that really gave people food for thought of like, we can't rush games out the door. Like, we really have to take the time to polish them up.
What's confusing about that scenario as well, though, is like, so we missed this last week because
we're away.
I was away. But the CD Projekt Red basically announced that their next game is a Witcher game, and it's a new saga, and that they're switching from their internal engine, the Red engine, to Unreal Engine 5. And I bet we're going to hear a story about how that engine was completely like, listen, it makes sense. They're an independent studio, and maintaining your own internal engine is a time sink of dramatic proportions. So I don't blame them for doing that. But at the same time, when they were, in the post-mortem of Cyberpunk, they said, we announced this game way too early. We will not do that again. Did they not just fucking do that again?
Unless The Witcher 4 is coming out next year.
There's no fucking way.
No way.
There's no way that game's out for the next 3 years. So like...
You never know.
People don't learn their lessons, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, I think it was silly of them to announce it, if it is that early. But I feel like The Witcher's probably been kicking around for a long time. They might have a smaller team. They might have had a smaller team working on it now that Cyberpunk is, somewhat it's not entirely wrapped up, obviously. They've still going to do DLC, and they've just recently launched on PS5 and Xbox properly. But I do feel that, with this focus off Cyberpunk, they might just be able to bring in more members to just focus on what I believe. I mean, I have to believe there's some prototyping or talking already happening.
Not having like maybe a third of the team working just on engine tech.
Exactly. I mean? that too. It frees up a whole lot of
and then development isn't waiting on internal tech to be developed for them to use it. They'll be working with Epic to kind of like fast track that. But the Unreal Engine 5 maybe has a lot of the tools that they already need for scaling to next gen. So I don't blame them for doing that, and I think it's a good move, even though like their engine was really pretty. Like Cyberpunk can be really, really, really pretty, but it's also fucked up in many weird ways.
In so many ways. But yeah, let's move on to the other news that we thought to maybe headline with, which I don't have open for some reason. Damn it.
Sony announces new PlayStation Plus subscriptions.
Why do I not have this open?
So yeah, this is kind of what Spartacus. If you've been following rumors, there was a report late last year about Sony announcing a subscription service that, people said, okay, this is their rival to Xbox Game Pass. And that was codenamed Spartacus. This is kind of it. And it is not, to me, a competitor to Game Pass because it doesn't even come close. If you had to compare the two directly, it's not the same. No. Like, it doesn't offer the same value. I think the big thing here is that, exclusives aren't day one on the service. Yeah. And that's a big thing. That's, what a lot of people look at Xbox Game Pass for, and they're like, that is its killer feature. Yeah. And this isn't that, you know what I mean? So
also, sorry, just to interrupt you and put it into perspective, like Microsoft can get away with it because they have a shit ton more money. Like, yeah, Sony's big, right? But Microsoft is way
their exclusives bigger. Are different.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? They can afford to throw money into that, I feel, because they're a much bigger company. Where Sony's big, but it's not Microsoft big. They're not. They're not
but
shipping.
If you look at Sony's I know in the past I've said this service is a non-starter without day one exclusives, and I still kind of think that. I don't think this service is an upsell to people who are already subscribed to PS Plus.
Exactly.
It is not a thing that gets people thinking, oh, I should buy PlayStation instead of Xbox in the way that Game Pass has done that for Xbox.
Exactly.
But at the same time, PlayStation's exclusives, the good one, the ones that, are marquee ones, are all single player games. So putting them on the service with no way to get money from them after the fact is kind of like, I get where the math comes in, and they're like, yeah, that's not going to work. Especially with the amount of money Sony invests into these exclusives. It's massive.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at Xbox, you've got, like Halo Infinite was released for free, and Halo the campaign is on Game Pass, but that game is supported by microtransactions after the fact. So there's ways for them to get money. Same with Gears of War, same with Forza. They are different types of games.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what's confusing is that Jim Ryan says that they think that live service games are better than, subscriptions for the future. So to me, that's an indication that their exclusives are going to change to a similar model to Microsoft's anyway. And if you're talking about live service games, what's the thing that keeps a live service game going? It's the lowering of the barrier to entry. That's why you've got like Destiny 2, its base game is free to play. Fortnite, free to play. You want people in that ecosystem so that they spend on the microtransactions. So if you're going to make people pay $70 for a live service game and then ask them for money, why aren't those games part of the service free?
With that in mind, Gran Turismo 7 will be day one on that service without a doubt, because
it has to be.
Yeah.
Like Gran Turismo is a really good example of Sony charging $70 for a live service game that then is a bad live service game on top of it. So it's like, there's a bit of a clash of ideas there. I don't understand how Jim Ryan can say they believe in live service games, but not in day one exclusives on the service, when that's kind of the point. Like, you want people in the door. If you're putting a $70 barrier to entry, and then on top of it, you're developing 6 live service games. So that's a lot already. Like,
yeah,
I don't think all of those will survive. So we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but there's essentially 3 tiers of the service. PlayStation Plus Essential.
That's just includes OG PlayStation.
It's
Plus,
basically what PlayStation Plus is now. You've got multiplayer access, the downloadable games per month, cloud storage, which I still cannot believe is behind a pay tier service. That's just fucking crazy.
Nintendo's the same, right?
Yeah, Nintendo's the same. Yeah. Why, guys? Like, Jesus. Like, anyway. Then you get PlayStation Plus Extra, which includes everything in Plus, plus an access to a catalog of up to 400 PS4 or PS5 games. So that increases from $9 a month to $15 a month, or $60 a year to $100 a year. They don't specify which games. Those are PS4 and PS5 games. So yeah. Then you get PlayStation Plus Premium. Includes all the benefits of Essential and Extra, plus an additional 340 games that are comprised of PS3 titles, PS2 titles, original PlayStation titles, and PSP games. Asterisk here is that PS3 games can only be streamed. They cannot be downloaded. And that will only be available in regions where PlayStation Now streaming is available. So not South Africa.
Yeah.
For regions like that, there is a different offering, which is called PlayStation Plus Premium Deluxe, I think, or PlayStation Plus Deluxe, which is slightly cheaper, but you don't get the PS3 titles.
Yeah, but even just my knee-jerk reaction to this, why are the classic games tiered behind the highest tier? Like,
it's bad.
It to me, it feels like cool. You can have PlayStation Plus Premium, right? If you want, it's got everything. But why is it not another tier? It's like, I just want PS Plus and the classic games, for example. Like, I just want to dabble with the classic games. I don't know why they slap it on the highest tier. It's weird.
And then on top of it, you can only play these games while you're subscribed.
Yep.
So say you own a huge collection of PS2 games or PS3 games or whatever. You can't just pop in the disc and play a supported game. You know, and again, this comes back to the comparison to Xbox. This isn't even part of Game Pass. This is just an Xbox feature. They just like, you got an original Xbox game, you got a 360 game, you pop that disc in. If it's a backwards compatible title, it works. It downloads the game and you can play it as long as the disc is there. Or you can buy it outright. You can buy the games you want. This one's like, no, we've got a rotating service. You have to be subscribed. And then if the game that you like actually gets taken off the service, well, fucking tough luck. Like, and then on top of it, the pricing is weird. So the monthly price for PlayStation Plus Premium is more expensive than Game Pass. It's $18 a month as opposed to $15 a month for Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah.
But then it's cheaper on a per year basis. So I'm just like, what? Like,
yeah, that's weird. But
so at launch,
even the PlayStation Plus Extra, which is that to me is probably the Game Pass competitor. It's $5 more than Game Pass. Isn't Game Pass $10 a month?
Yeah, if you're just having it on Xbox, it's $10. If you want Ultimate, then it's the same price, but that gives you access on PC as well.
Yeah.
So at launch, Sony plans to include games like Death Stranding, God of War, Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Mortal Kombat 11, and Returnal onto the service. So to me, that gives me an indication that exclusives that are a year or a year plus older might be put on the service. But Sony hasn't given a sort of indication of like, you know, maybe there's a standard that after 6 months, they just pop the game on the service. That would be cool.
Yeah.
You know? If they confirm that, then, you know, it's not the same as day one, but it's something, you know.
But Ghost of Tsushima, for example, is not here. Hasn't been mentioned, and that's a year, 2 years old now.
Yeah. So what's weird? So I think it's not mentioned there because Ghost of Tsushima is on that PlayStation Plus collection on PS5 anyway.
Okay.
So whereas all of these games aren't.
Okay.
So I don't think that. I think that's why, because you can already access that through PlayStation Plus.
Okay.
So yeah, PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan suggests Sony's own games could suffer if they went straight to PlayStation on day one. He says, quote, in terms of putting our games into the service or any of our services upon their release, as you well know, this is not a road that we've gone down in the past, and it's not a road we're going down with this new service. We feel if we want to do that with games that we make at PlayStation Studios, the virtuous cycle will be broken. The level of investment that we need to make in our studios will not be possible, and we think the knock-on effect on the quality of the games that we make would not be something that gamers want. However, he then says later in that interview that they think live service is the future. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't know. They bought Bungie. They recently bought Haven, Jade Raymond's studio, and both of those studios are working on live service games. And they've said they want to launch 6 live service games by 2026. So they are all in on that. And those are very different to the exclusives that they're talking about here. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I have this strong feeling that within a year the service is different.
It changes. I also think so. Yeah. Well, let's see. In other PlayStation news, PlayStation VR 2 is hot.
Yeah, this blog just kind of launched. I guess getting ready for some imminent announcement.
Yeah, because we know of PSVR 2, right? But then this full-on blog post just dropped with a breakdown of all of
everything,
all of the headset's features, the controller's features. No release date yet, but still very excited to see what PSVR 2 does. Very excited that it's one cable.
I mean, there were a lot of things going around this week about being a big week for PlayStation, and it was. They announced the PlayStation Plus subscription stuff, but then the other two rumors were talks of a big acquisition.
Oh yeah,
not sure who. And then the other was that there was going to be a PSVR 2 state of play because apparently it was demoed to developers at GDC, which was last week.
Okay.
So I think this is Sony prepping for something like that. Yeah.
Do you think this comes out this year?
I think it does. I think this comes out end of the year.
Nice.
I think when you've got the hardware finalized in a way like this and you've already announced at least one game for it, I think this is, they're going to push probably for a December release or maybe a January to March in 2023.
Yeah.
I love everything about this design. The fact that it's inside out tracking now, that it's a single cable connection. Yes, it's not wireless, but it's also driving 4K and HDR. So like I can live with a single USB-C connection. That's fine. And then it's got like stuff that other VR headsets don't have yet, like eye tracking, finger touch detection, which is what the Valve Index does. Like this looks like it's going to be expensive.
It's packing a bit of a punch here.
Yeah, but this looks like a worthy successor to PSVR. So yeah, very keen.
Cool. Keep an eye out for that. Well, as of recording, yesterday was April 1st. And in a cool, disappointing April 1st news, Metal Gear 35th anniversary site was a prank.
And not a prank by Konami.
No.
Because Konami doesn't give a shit about Metal Gear Solid anymore.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Someone just made this website and it was confirmed that Konami were not affiliated with the site. So any hope of a sort of Metal Gear 35th like celebration? Zero.
Oh, they've slapped were they selling like NFTs? Well, they were.
Yeah, they were making fun of Konami's Castlevania NFT project. I do like those little Otacons. They're very good. Yeah.
Cool. In very cool news for South Africa, Disney Plus is finally hitting our shores.
Hell yeah.
We've waited so long for this. So long. I mean,
it feels like 2-3
years. Did Disney Plus come out before COVID? Was it BC or AC? We have to.
BC or AC. I actually don't know. When was the first season of The Mandalorian? Because it launched with The Mandalorian.
That was before.
So that was
COVID.
November 2019. So yeah, it was before COVID.
Okay, so finally, almost 3 years later, 2.5 to 3 years later, we're getting it in South Africa. It's going to cost. Where did I see?
I think it's 120.
Yeah, I think
per month?
It's 110 or 120.
Yeah, there we go. The service will cost you 120 a month or 1,190 a year.
Not bad at all.
So it will cost you in a year what DSTV charges, what, monthly?
DSTV monthly is 800 rand.
Yeah, get fucked.
Yeah, not cool.
Yeah, very excited. And this is earlier than expected. I think we had been hearing
like May,
July.
June. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So 18th of May, that means it will come out just
before
in time Kenobi, or just after Kenobi. Yeah, the premiere at least, because they do it weekly. So yeah. Also included, we're going to get access to Stars content, which is not available in all regions. Essentially, Stars is like programs of Disney's that are on other platforms that, it doesn't deem appropriate for Disney Plus specifically. So you get exclusives from Hulu, from Fox, stuff like that. So that's also really cool.
That's cool. So yeah. Back to gaming news. I think you are excited for this. Hyperlight Breaker has been announced for early access in 2020. And it's releasing in 2023.
Yeah, speaking of good Zelda games, so Hyperlight Drifter is like a 2D Zelda action game. Very fucking good, beautiful visuals, just amazing. And the studio behind it, I think it's Machine Heart Games. They released last year a 3D game.
Machine.
Heart Machine, sorry. They released a 3D game called Solar Ash, which is sort of like a 3D roller skating through apocalyptic combat stuff. It looked great. So now to me, it looks like they took what they learned there and were just like, cool, let's make a Hyperlight Drifted sequel in 3D. And that's what Hyperlight Breaker is. So yeah, fucking excited for that. Looks great.
Cool.
It's coming spring 2023.
Nice. It's not coming in 2022 though. E3. It has been cancelled, and
RIP 3.
A planned digital version of E3 won't happen this year. So is E3 just done now, like officially, or is it coming back next year?
This is the first time the expo's been cancelled or hasn't taken place since 1995. I mean, they still have the lease. The ESA still has the lease for the LACC to 2023, so they could do something next year. But like, I think this is it. I think this is done. The ESA has so many problems internally. Like that organization as a whole is just not kind of adapted in tune with the studios that it's meant to represent, which is super confusing.
I also think people like Jeff Keighley stepped in and like just. I think we can thank Nintendo for their direct. That's sort of set. I think it's a good formula, like an online direct, cool. And people have just sort of followed that. And COVID just showed people like we can announce stuff with less fuss, less money, and still get the coverage. Like from a practical point of view, I'll miss E3 because I love that week of hype.
Yeah, absolutely.
But from a company point of view, I've said it time and time again, why would you choose to announce everything in the week why would you choose to announce your game in a week where everything else is getting announced when you could just pick a date in the calendar, have your own showcase and get all the news coverage around it? You're not fighting for headlines. I don't know.
No, I 100% agree. I love that week of hype. I felt like it was always the sort of like kick to like get me through the rest of the year. And I feel incredibly grateful that
we got to go.
That we got to go. You went the one time. Yeah. You went to Gamescom multiple times. I went to E3 multiple times. I do think it's gone though. RIP 3.
Pour one out.
It was great. Yeah, pour one out.
I mean, it might. You never know if it doesn't come.
I'm gonna
go
to the steps of the LACC and just pour out a beer, a Budweiser Light. Just.
I mean, look, if it doesn't come back next year, it might be a thing of like 5-10 years. We find, people go, oh, we miss having this week to announce everything. It comes back.
Jeff Keighley's having a fucking great time because he used this time to just remind people that Summer Games Fest is happening. So
he's like, it's a darn shame. So anyways, Summer Games
Fest. The amount of fucking shade that man has thrown at E3 is unreal. I aspire to be that fucking.
What would Jeff Keighley
brash?
Do?
Yeah.
But yeah,
what a man.
I think that is news.
Small Canadian man with the biggest fucking. I'm not going to say ego because he seems like a cool dude, but yeah, just my goodness.
Yeah, cool.
He's a cool dude. We met him. He's nice.
He's very cool.
He's very short.
He's teeny tiny.
It's like comes up to your shoulders. It was very alarming.
Alarming. But yeah, that's news this week. We have some questions.
If you want to be like people who send us questions, I guess. Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that.
You're going to say like
email us. Yeah, you can email us checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on all social platforms at Checkpoint Chat.
Cool. So we got
two
questions from Down Under. Number one says, "Good day, mates.
Oi, governor.
How do you guys handle big events that are not in your time zone? I originally had this question for Sandy because the first 2 F1 races were at ungodly hours in Australia.
Sure, I can imagine.
Obviously applies to big gaming events like E3, so I guess it's for both of you. For the F1, I chose sleep, ignored Twitter, and muted the WhatsApp group and watched the replay in the morning. Do you guys stay up or wake up early for things? If so, what are the times that are simply not worth it? For me, 1 a.m. is the latest I can stay up, so if it's later, I'll just miss out on seeing it live.
It depends on the event for me. Like recently, beginning of this year, we had, I think, that one Nintendo Direct that was at midnight here, and then we had that recent State of Play that was at midnight. I didn't stay up for those. Not a fucking chance.
No, it's look, it's nice to be part of the hype, but it's also nice to wake up the next morning and just get a nice little summary.
And also,
cool.
When there's smallish events like that, it's really easy to just wake up and there will be an article that rounds up everything, and you can just like read everything before you even need to check Twitter. So for those that don't, I mean, E3, we both did the sort of like graveyard shift on E3. That's a different thing. I think it's different for us because we're working. You know what I mean? So
that is a thing of. So if you don't know what the graveyard shift is, because we're in South Africa, E3 happens. It like starts
during
at
the night.
7. Oh God, I lost your Discord.
Sorry, I pressed the switch of camera by accident.
So I think if I recall, E3 starts at about 7 p.m. our time.
Yeah, it was always like Microsoft at like 7 in the evening.
Yeah, and then it just
like
progressively
Ubisoft
gets
at
later
11.
and later.
EA before that. I remember it ended with Sony at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, 3 in the morning. And there's us typing away, whooping up some notes, putting out articles. It's the best of times. It was the worst of times.
If I have to think of the events that I've stayed up for that weren't work just because I wanted to, I distinctly remember staying up to watch the entirety of the International 3 finals.
Yeah.
That was the Navi Alliance finals. And then literally like watching the finals, being so hyped, and then getting in the car and going to varsity.
Yeah.
Would never do it again. That was I felt like absolute trash the rest of that day.
Absolute death.
Garbage. Just garbage.
My goodness.
I've stayed up, I think, once for like E3 just to kind of see it. You know, I'm trying to think of other ones that would say. I've never stayed up for like a sporting thing, but then again, you know, I've never been in the case of Malesh where like I feel bad because the first 2 races,
got, some bad times.
they get shafted with anything, with football, with Formula One. Like it sounds like a bad time.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry, the next race is in Australia, so we get fucked by that. So it's okay.
Malesh is like, thank God.
Yeah, exactly. But it really depends on the event. Like if I know, like, say this week they announced a state of play for PSVR 2 and it's at midnight, I might stay up for that because that's like a big
it's
thing.
A new, new hardware, new games.
Yeah, in the same way that if it was like, state of play for PlayStation 5 Pro or something, I'd stay up for that. Yeah. But when they're like, it's just a state of play and we're highlighting Ghostwire Tokyo, I'm like, okay, fuck, miss me. I'll see that in the morning.
We're going to show Deathloop again.
I did actually stay up till midnight this week to try and buy a new custom keyboard. And then by the time I tried to check out, it sold out. So I cried.
What cult are you part of that a keyboard is?
I was very bleak, very, very bleak. Now I have to wait till like end of May for a restock and then maybe try again.
It just sounds funny because like a custom keyboard to me is just like the last thing that would sell out. But obviously there are people like you who are like, heck yes, I need this new keyboard.
I mean Shani was like, what time are you coming to bed? I'm like, midnight. She's like, why? I'm like, I'm buying a keyboard. And she just turned around and just walked out. She didn't even ask.
That's when you have to lie to like, whatever. Then she's like, oh my God, are you having an affair? Like, no, God, no. I'm just buying a keyboard.
Keyboards, very expensive keyboards.
It's like, I would have preferred if he's told me you're having an affair.
Yeah, exactly. It's less embarrassing.
Oh God. Cool. Last question from Malesh. So I have a question about critical hits, and he says in brackets, too soon, ? And Metacritic. A few years ago, I remember you guys proudly announcing that you were officially recognized by Metacritic. So just for clarity, not Checkpoint Chat, critical hits, who we used to write for, previously known as Lazy Gamer. How was this earned? I assume it was a combination of traffic and the perceived quality of the websites. With the major shakeup and the quality no longer being maintained at Critical Hit, did they maintain that affiliation? If not, how do you lose it? Is it something that's renewed regularly?
I don't know entirely.
For starters, Critical Hit doesn't seem to do game reviews anymore. So
as far as I know, getting on Metacritic is incredibly difficult. You have to reach a certain traffic metric. You have to have a sort of regularity of reviews.
It's like X number of reviews every month or something like that.
Yes, yeah. And then those reviews have to be up to a certain quality standard. I don't know how that is determined. Yeah. So I do know that when we announced it, I know Gavin and Jeff had been working on that for ages, because there's like an approval window once every year. So if you miss that, you just have to like try again the next year.
Yeah.
So it's a very laborious process. I seem to recall that when the reins were handed over at Critical Hit and basically everyone that was there left, when things started going haywire, I can't recall if it was Jeff or Gavin mentioning that because of the irregularity of reviews, that it would eventually be taken off Metacritic. Like, I think, again, they come through that approval period and maybe they do like a sweep of the existing ones that they've approved and say, oh, they haven't been keeping up, we're just going to remove them from aggregation. I don't know if they take a look at the quality there. I literally just think it's a numbers game there.
Yeah.
Whether the traffic has fallen off a cliff, or I think it's mostly just the regularity of the reviews, like staying current.
Yeah. Sorry.
So yeah, I actually have no fucking idea when last let's actually check. When last did they post a review? Because then we can see if it was still put up onto Metacritic. So let's go to Critical Hit. Gross. I'm going to manage my cookies and not accept any of them.
Games. Gaming news.
Let's see. Reviews.
Nope.
Okay, so the first thing that pops up under reviews is Xbox Series X restock.
Nice. 12 minutes.
12 minutes,
review.
Which was August 26, 2021. And did it get put up on Metacritic?
Okay, 12 minutes is 6.9 out of 10.
Ugh. Sis, they went back to that. 6.9. No, it's not a Metacritic.
Well, there you go. It's gone. Pour one out.
They were clearly removed from Metacritic. Yeah, I don't see it there for 12 minutes. Unless I'm not looking at the correct platform. Let me actually see if I can find. Sorry, this is like not playing well for audio listeners.
Reviewed on PC.
Reviewed on PC. Okay, let me make sure. Yeah, I'm on the PC one. So yeah, it's just not there.
It's gone.
So pour one out. But yeah, I mean, for anyone who's kept up with that, this site is a fucking shell of its former self. It's disgusting. It's got like do not follow links in tons of articles. All of the content is just SEO garbage fodder. There is absolutely nothing original or interesting about this website anymore.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll straight up say it. The community that was fucking vying for big sweeping changes to the website, who constantly bitched and moaned about the content being put out, they got what they wanted. They fucking got what they wanted. They all left the site, and I'm not shocked that it... I mean, I am actually floored. I mean, this article I just opened now, that's on the home page. Oh, okay, it's a restock article, so it keeps being refreshed. Never mind. I was like, there's actually comments on it. I just want to find something.
I don't think there are any comments.
Yeah, there's no comments anymore.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's dead. So you know what? You won. Congrats.
GG.
Anyway, I'm not going to say congrats as if the comments were the reason the site was sold. The site was sold because
it's other reasons.
Gavin had been looking for an out for a very long time, because it's a tiring thing to keep doing this on the side. He found a buyer. In the same vein, Jeff had got a full-time job. You know, Darren was looking for a change as well. It came at the right time, right place type of thing, and no one regrets moving on. I think everyone's just kind of sad that it turned into this. But yeah, it's not like it was forced, put it that way.
No. Well,
everyone landed pretty well afterwards. So.
If you want to look for a replacement to Critical Hit, maybe introduce you to Fangirl, which is basically the old guard, all the people who left Critical Hits who are now contributing to
and doing contributing in their own capacity in a fun way.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got stuff from Darren there, from Noel, from Tracy, from Kervin.
Yeah.
Even
Carvy's been writing
Carvy was
stuff,
on there
cool.
the other day. So yeah, I mean, I'm not contributing there because I just straight up do not have the fucking time.
Yep, likewise.
But yeah, check them out. Also, maybe this is a good time to note, is it just Fangirl? Or in my head always says PF Fangirl.
It's Fangirl.
Which is wrong because that makes no fucking sense.
I think it's...
Because PF Fangirl, there's no two Fs, but that's just my dumb ass brain.
I think it's linked to Michelle Pfeiffer, which is...
Yeah, I think that's correct.
And it's
so then it is Fangirl, not P Fangirl.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other thing.
Cool, but that's all the questions. And we have to bounce because Lens is about to do a Portuguese lesson.
Yes. Thank you so much for your questions. If you want to send us questions, you can email us, checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. And that is episode 181 of Checkpoint Chat.
We're back.
As always, thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a stellar week going forward. And we will be back next week.
With more Elden Ring. Kidding.
With more Elden Ring and Tunic.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Kirby.
And maybe Lego Star Wars.
Oh
Definitely
boy.
Lego Star Wars, yes.
Cool.
Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll see you. Bye.
Goodbye.